Number 20-523FH. Mr. Shartow, you were convicted of possession of child sexually abusive material. That is a felony punishable by up to 4 years in prison. You have the right to an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Kraus. And I think maybe you told me this already, Mr. Shartow. Would you confirm for me, though, today that you're okay with doing the sentencing remotely?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Kraus, have you had a chance to go through the pre-sentence report with your client?
I have, Your Honor. And
do you have any additions?
Sorry.
That's okay. Do you have any additions, deletions, or corrections?
Yes, I do have a few. And for the record, I did want to let everyone know that Mr. Shartow is in our office just down the hallway from me. He's in a conference room and I'm in my office. So just a handful on the pre-sentence report, Your Honor. On page 3 of the pre-sentence investigation, the third full paragraph that starts out, given the defendant's involvement.
Yes.
That first sentence, instead of Life Journeys Church, that should be Journey Life Church.
Got it.
And then the lead pastor, Dr. Jared Stepp, he's mentioned in that paragraph twice. Oh, no, there's another time, 3 times actually. They have it as steps, S-T-E-P-P-S, and that should just be S-T-E-P-P. And so there are 3 different times. Oh, no more than that. Let's see. 1,
yeah,
2.
A lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm finding them all.
Okay, and then in the paragraph right after that, same thing. The S should be dropped off.
Yeah. I got it about 6 times here, correct?
Yep, I think that's what I have too.
Okay. Anything else?
Then on the next page, page 4, and I don't know, this isn't so much a correction, but I thought I should note it at this point. But at the top of the page, it notes that there is a student safety zone near the school. And I would take issue with that, Your Honor. And so I don't know if you want to hear that now or later.
Well, I noticed they didn't make a recommendation that he not reside in a school student safety zone.
Right, and that was part of the reason why I didn't know if you wanted to wait until the court fashioned its sentence or
Yeah.
Why
don't you wait till then?
That's fine.
Any other corrections?
Yes, on page 7, under marriage,
Yes.
that should be Christy Munson, and that's K-R-I-S-T-I instead of Katie.
Got it.
And then we're not sure what her we're not sure what her occupation is, but it is the former spouse, Nicole Slate, who is in the medical field. She's a nurse. So that should be reversed, so to speak.
Got it. Nurse. Okay, so I put unknown.
Yes, unknown for the other one.
The first and nurse for the second. Got it.
Yep. And then last of all, on page 8, under employment.
Are your pages numbered?
Yeah, at the bottom.
Oh. Mine aren't, but okay.
Oh, okay. But under employment, it's Mr. Shartow started with the state of Michigan's DTMB, Department of Technology Management budget on 12/16/2016.
Got it.
And those are all the corrections that I had, Your Honor.
Any objection to the scoring of the guidelines?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Allen, did the people have any corrections to the report or objections to scoring?
None to the report, Your Honor. To the guidelines, it doesn't change the level or the range, but OV12, the people believe should be scored at 5. There was another charge that was dismissed as part of the plea agreement that happened at the same time, taking the total to 15, but again, does not change the level or the range.
Kraus? Any
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, then I've changed it, so it's now a A2 range of 0 to 6, which it was before. I acknowledge the Killebrew of no upfront jail. And that was your only change, Ms. Allen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did the people wish to be heard?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Very, very briefly, I'd just like the court to know that Mr. Sharto is deeply sorry and remorseful for his illegal conduct that underlies this matter. He has, I think it's important to note, taken responsibility from the very outset, and almost immediately after being after the state police came to his home, he very quickly sought the help of medical professionals early on to get the therapeutic assistance and help that he needs. And in the time that I've known Mr. Sharto and worked with him, I've never, ever heard him make any excuses or try to explain anything away. One of the things that I would just note in terms of his having taken responsibility, I think it's demonstrated by his having affirmatively sought out on his own a monitoring device for his computer that could be and was checked by his church elders pre-charge. So that was prior to any criminal charges, Your Honor. And even though it is mandatory, of course, and standard as part of any sentence, Mr. Sharto affirmatively volunteered to his probation agent to not only have regular monitoring, but also to pay for it. And again, I realize that's part and parcel, but Mr. Sharto didn't necessarily know that. And I think it's important for the court to know that he actually sought that out. And I know the court has reviewed our sentencing memorandum, but I just did want to briefly reiterate his need for internet access consistent with his First Amendment rights as set forth in the Packingham case. I was unsuccessful in my attempt to locate the Department of Corrections internet use agreement, but I think in any event, it's within the court's discretion to narrowly tailor a specific judgment of sentence that would certainly prohibit Mr. Sharto from engaging in any conduct, such as accessing pornographic websites, which is not anything that he certainly wants to do in any event and wants nothing to do with. But he does need general access for the reasons that we set forth in the memo, and including being able to play video games that are certainly not at all pornographic or sexual in nature. And the only reason I mention that, Your Honor, is because I think, particularly in this day and age with the pandemic, we're all sort of confined to our homes and so on, and entertainment having to be found where it can be inside our homes. So I think that's another important part of the internet. But primarily, this has to do with his being able to lead a productive life in the way that he should and wants to. And finally, Your Honor, I just know, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I wish I had known that you didn't have that internet use agreement, because I have it and I had actually printed it off.
Oh, okay. Well, I might, Your Honor. Is this the computer use agreement for sex offenders? Is that what it says?
That's not how it's entitled, but I believe that's what it's used for. It's not
Okay. I couldn't
restricted.
find one that said that with DOC on it, and so I may have it.
Okay, it's got 8 numbered paragraphs.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think I do have it.
Okay.
Then. Okay.
All right.
And
I'm
that-
sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. Then I think some of that makes more sense then, I think, under those circumstances. I would just add, finally, Your Honor, and I think we've noted this too, and I know Mr. Sharto wants to speak to this, but he is a man of profound faith, and his faith has brought him great comfort and assistance throughout this matter. And I think he's actually very thankful that these charges and their attendant consequences have had the effect of changing his behavior. This has all brought him a great deal of personal insight, and he's certainly deeply committed to never engaging in this wrongful conduct again. So thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Sharto, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I do. I would like to just want to apologize to the court, to my family for everything I've done, in which I take full responsibility and make no excuses. I made some extremely poor choices for which I'm deeply sorry and remorseful. I do realize I have a lot of life to live and I don't want it to go to waste. Like you'd said, I had asked God to help me deal with it and my wrongdoing, to help me get out of this behavior out of my life for good. And I believe that he answered that prayer. And I've learned and gotten the help I need in the midst of all this. I started therapy even before I was arrested, and I'm determined to move forward on the right path. And I promise that I will continue to work diligently with my medical professionals and my therapists and my church to treat my health concerns so that I can return to a healthy and productive life that I had before. I further promise that I will not let you or the prosecutor down. I'm absolutely intent and committed to living the remainder of my life in a lawful and rewarding way. And I also want to express my gratitude to the prosecutor for giving me a chance to do so.
All right, thank you. Well, Mr. Shartow, I think that you have shown a lot of taking of responsibility for what you've done here. And I read, as your attorney mentioned, his sentencing memorandum and the letters that were attached to it. And I will give you a lot of credit for your acceptance of responsibility and your efforts to do something about it. I just have to say one thing, though, that has not been said anywhere in anything that I've read, and that is that I want you to fully understand that this crime is extremely heinous. And, you know, I don't care what your focus was, whether it was on children or minors that were post-pubescent. I don't care, because when I read the agent's description of the offense as including a video of a 4 to 6 year old prepubescent female lying on her back wearing only a skirt with an adult male engaging in vaginal intercourse, I am sickened. And you need to understand that every single person who is willing to view stuff like that is committing a crime against this child. This is a real child. It's not an actor. This is a real 4 to 6 year old little girl who is having vaginal intercourse performed on her. And every single person who makes any use of that material whatsoever is re-victimizing that child. It is a very heinous offense. And I just didn't see that anywhere, and I think it needs to be said. Given, though, that you have been very accepting of responsibility, and again, I appreciate that you're a man of faith. I think that can go a long way. I think that just as important is that you stay up with counseling and, you know, one-on-one type of counseling. I'm very concerned with internet use. I don't think that the internet use agreement with MDOC is very extremely restrictive, but I am very concerned about it. I just want to state that, you know, your counselor's report indicated, and you indicated too, and it was throughout the pre-sentence report, that this was a sort of a compulsion for you. So, you know, I can just picture someone sitting at home bored with a computer playing video games and, you know, slipping easily into a compulsion that you were unable to control before. And so I worry that you would be unable to control it again. So, you know, I'm not sure. A lot of this internet use agreement is going to be dependent on what your agent allows you to do. And I think they're very attuned to this type of an offense and the perils that go along with using a computer with someone who's convicted of this type of an offense. So they may really rein you in on that. I just want you to be prepared for that. But that's the reason why. It's not punitive. It's, you know, supposed to put you in a better environment so that you're not likely to re-offend again. So it's to your benefit that those restrictions are in place, and again, not punitive. So I'm going to follow the Killebrew and place you on probation for 60 months, 1 day in jail with credit for 1 day served. You have to pay $130 to the Crime Victims Fund, $68 in state costs, oversight fees in the amount of $600 payable at the rate of $10 a month, costs in the amount of $500 based on the State Court Administrative Office calculated average cost of a criminal case in Ingham County. Additional conditions of probation are: you must register as required by the Michigan Sex Offender Registration Act and comply with all the conditions of the act. You must not access the internet using any device prior to completing and signing the MDOC Internet Use Agreement. You must waive confidentiality and allow disclosure and exchange of information between the Michigan Department of Corrections and its authorized agents and all case offender management team members. You must not have any verbal, written, electronic, or in-person contact with any individual age 17 or under. You may not marry, date, or have any romantic involvement with anyone who resides with or has physical custody of any individual age 17 or under. You must not purchase, possess, or use sexually stimulating materials of any kind. You must complete sex offender treatment or other treatment when you are referred by your agent. You must not engage in any assaultive, abusive, threatening, or intimidating behavior. You may not have any contact with anyone you know to have a felony record. You must not change your residence unless you first get written permission from your agent. You may not possess a weapon while you're on probation. You must comply with the written and verbal orders of your agent, allow the agent into your home at any time, submit to a search of your person or property without need of a warrant, and report any changes to your agent within 24 hours. Now, you also have to have some kind of contact with your agent, with the probation department, within 24 hours. I think they're contacting people, but if they don't, because they're not seeing people in person, so if they don't contact you, please, if you don't know the number, ask Mr. Kraus and he can help you get in touch with them, but you'll need to make sure that you make contact with them. Mr. Sharto, you have the right to file an application for leave to appeal your conviction and your sentence in this matter. You're entitled to an attorney at public expense to assist you in doing that. If you're making a request for one, you have to make it within 42 days of today's date. If Mr. Kraus doesn't have the form to hand to you, we'll mail it to you. And you should just know, though, that the time period of 42 days starts running from today's date. Do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Then if there's nothing further?
Your Honor, I did have a couple of questions or clarifications that I wanted to make about the terms and conditions. And I may have, and if I misheard you, I apologize. But as to the fourth recommendation from the Department of Corrections about not having any contact with an individual age 17 or under, what my concern about that was, and again, if I misunderstood, please, I apologize. But Mr. Sharto does have certainly family members who have younger children, and there will always be a responsible adult in any family get-togethers or gatherings. And I wanted to make sure that as well as any contact with children at his church, again, there being responsible adults there all the time, is that would not run afoul of the court's order, would it, or judgment?
Well, I can specify that immediate family members and also anyone present at the church is an acceptable situation as long as there is a responsible adult also present.
That was all I was looking for there, Your Honor. And then one other thing, I'm sorry. One other thing, could we have an exception on the associating with felons as far as his employment and church?
Well, generally, I don't know what you mean, but what that provision really means is that you can't go hanging out with a buddy who's got a felony conviction. It doesn't mean you can't go to church or participate in church activities.
Okay.
If someone also, it's about fraternization in a social setting more.
That's what I explained to my client. I just wanted to make sure of that because we have some sort of specific concerns there, but I think that takes care of them.
What I would suggest, I mean, that's how I interpret that provision, always have.
Yeah.
But Mr. Sharto, I think the best course of action always is to inform your probation agent of the situation. And you can even tell them that I said what I just said. But, you know, it's always better to be upfront with it if you have a question about what's permissible and what isn't, rather than to do it and then find out you're in trouble for doing it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you're welcome. That'll end our hearing then?
That's, I'm